Welcome to episode 543 of the Grit2Greatness Endurance Podcast. We're your hosts, coaches April Spilde and Rich Soares, and we are on a mission to help endurance athletes train smarter, race stronger, and build the grit it takes to achieve greatness.
And today we are talking about one of the most iconic, misunderstood, and quietly challenging races on the Ironman 70.3 calendar, Boulder. This race has history, altitude, I'll say attitude as well, and a way of exposing mistakes without being flashy about it. So today we're going to give you the full story, where this race came from, why it's different, and why athletes don't always make it to the finish line.
Yes, but you are after you listen to this podcast. We guarantee it. No, I don't think we can guarantee that. Can we put guarantees on there? Like this? I don't think we can. Hey, but
we're going to give you,
we're going to give you a fighting chance. That's for sure.
Yes.
No, this has got this. I've raced this race more than any race I've ever raced. I think maybe second to the Boulder Peak. So I've really loved this race. Been around it for years, and this is a special time of year for me. I always love going to, if I'm not racing it, volunteering for it. And let's get rolling today. We've got a couple of Grit to Greatness announcements we want to get out there first before we do get into the main event and the main discussion. So we're going to give a shout out to some of our Grit to Greatness athletes who are doing some racing coming up, including our very own Coach April and one of her athletes, Elizabeth Whelan. They are doing Harvest Moon this Sunday, and Elizabeth is doing the Olympic. Is that right?
She is. Olympic? This will be her first Olympic. Yes.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited for her. It's her tune-up confidence booster for Boulder 70.3.
Perfect. Look at that. It's almost like a plug for 70.3.
I know. It's going to come a lot in this conversation, folks. Just be ready. I also want to give a shout out to Carolyn Young and Gabby Cavallero for racing Colorado Tri-Boulder. We're excited to see what you throw down for both of you. They're both amazing athletes and feisty as hell.
They are.
So let's see it. Yes.
Those two together, what a pair.
And then we have Chris Shothan, who is racing Best of the West on July 5th. What is Best of the West, Rich? Do you know?
Yeah, it's a triathlon over there near kind of Portland, Oregon. And this is he's doing the Olympic, and this is actually a tune-up for Salem that he's got coming up.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Salem
Let's
70.3.
go, Chris. Yes.
Yeah, buddy. And by the way, I got to tell you, huge shout out to Chris. This guy has been putting in the hard yards with swimming. This guy, he is out there open water swimming 2-3 days a week now. And he is finding so much more comfort through having, getting some more exposure and, really learning about his body's reaction to cold water. He will go into the water and he'll just monitor his heart rate and watch as it responds to the cold water. And when his body finally starts to adjust and calm down and his heart rate comes down.
That is so good for his confidence and mental fortitude, all of that. Way to go, Chris.
Yeah, we're really proud of you, buddy. You're going to do great. And then Mike Murphy, this is the cyclist turned triathlete now. Mike Murphy, who I've been piloting, he's a blind athlete. He has been doing cycling racing on a track for the LA 2028 Games, trying to qualify either in road or track. And he's also taking a crack at triathlon. We did some swimming together. We actually had him come up to the USAFA pool a couple weeks ago, Coach April, right? And
yeah,
he is now going to this Dare to Try camp. This is a injured military vets, basically talent ID camp. And they are going to also do the Leon's Sprint Triathlon afterwards. So he's going to really get a chance to test what we've been training before this camp, take what he's learning in the camp and apply it and see how he does and see if we can get him on a track to Milwaukee. So
that's incredible. Just knowing his heart and his commitment level, I fully see this in his future. So let's go, Mike. You got this.
Yeah. So yeah, all these races, Colorado Tri-Boulder, Best of the West, and the Leon Sprint Triathlon, all next weekend with Colorado Tri Boulder and Best of the West on Saturday and the Leon Sprint on Sunday. So guys, we'll be giving you another shout out next week, but just, so you make sure that you hear it. We wanted to get it out there in the air for you this weekend. Last announcement, Boulder 70.3. Oh, how about that? Let's just keep tying in Boulder 70.3. Volunteers are needed. We need Coach April and I are going to be back in the transition area volunteering. Please come and hang out with us. Or I also have an understanding, actually. Jen Sabo, thank you for responding and letting us know your need. They need wetsuit peelers. So if you want a really fun kind of spectator event or very interactive volunteer event, be a wetsuit peeler. It's kind of a fun process. So
high energy, lots of involvement, lots of adrenaline. It's a great one. I think that's a fun, if you want to be engaged the entire time, that's a good one to sign up for.
And I tell you what, if it's hot outside, you're going to be getting lots of like residual spray as you're whipping off these wetsuits. I have no idea what other fluids are inside them. I'm just saying, but
disclaimer.
Anyway, links here in the show notes if you dare to volunteer. All right. April, you ready would you like a little bit of a history on Boulder 70.3?
Good, sir. I would love it because I know you are intimately connected with this race. I see the polo that you're wearing tonight. You showed me before we got on a couple of different mementos. So I would love to hear the rundown from someone who actually knows.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm sure I've not raced as much as some people have, but I've raced it a fair bit. And just a little bit of history, before it was Ironman Boulder 70.3, it was not originally an Ironman branded course. The course was originally owned by actually Barry and Jody Siff, a husband and wife team. It was called 5430 Sports was actually the name of the company. And this was the 5430 long course. Now, there was also a 5430 Sprint. There was a 5430 Boulder Peak. All of those races were all owned by the Siffs back in the day. But this particular race really had an amazing following. And it was, it was actually my second full half Ironman. Now, they owned this from 2009 all the way up until I think it was like 2012 or so. And then they sold it to Ironman, and now they've been running it ever since. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure just the iconic flat irons, the reservoir itself, the beauty of the bike course, like all of that, just in the history there it's a well-known area for triathletes to train. So I'm sure there's a lot of that play at the heart of why it's so iconic.
Well, this is a fun little history, walk through down history lane for me, because I was looking back at my Athlinks account. I did it as the 5430 long course in 2008 and 2009. And then, 2007, 2008. Then in 2009, it says it was the Boulder 70.3. No, that was 2011. How interesting. Well, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, and then 2018 and 2022. That was my track record.
Wow.
Boulder 70.3. Pretty much every other year, I think I volunteered. So I wonder why. There was a couple of years, I guess I didn't do it, maybe because I was doing the full. But here's a really interesting historical fact about this race, April. So the 70.3 used to be in August. Okay. This was in August. Right. Exactly. Excruciatingly hot in August. Well, guess what happened in 2014? It was no longer in August. It was in June. You know what happened in 2014?
Tell me.
The full Boulder 70.3 arrived. And what did they decide to do? They decided to put the full in August
no.
so that people could have the half to do as a build-up to the full. Would you like to know what happened in August on that first full full Ironman in August. It got so freaking hot. It was a 25% DNF rate.
Oh my gosh.
It was so bad on the run course that they had all these paramedics going around on bikes. If you were flat on your back and you had your blood pressure wasn't dangerous, they said, "You're fine. I have other calls I have to get to."
Whoa.
So there's that. So anyway, that's it's just kind of a fun. It's really interesting. So then it stays. So that happens, and they're like, "Well, whoa, that was a big mistake." So they move. No, so they kept. Oh, so that's what they did. They moved. I think what they did. Actually, I guess they just kept it that way ever since, because it's been June ever since. So anyway,
yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that was a good move.
I think it was a good move too.
Yeah.
And it has been a hallmark race for pros. It's been really cool. Like we've witnessed a lot of the pros out there racing.
Wow.
And one of my favorite memories, I think it was 2024. And I think it was 2023 or 2024, the year that we had the camp, the Boulder camp here, the TriDoc camp. It was really funny. Taylor Knibb came in, the men start before the women, right? And, the swim happens, and usually most of the men are out on the bike first. And then by the time, and I think even when the pros went out on the bike, I think most of the women followed the men, right? I don't think there were very many passes out on the water. But when they came back, Taylor Knibb came in to transition first for the females. And it was one pro. I mean, she must have been like the 7th or 8th bike in overall.
Wow.
So there were all these male pros that came in behind her. And it was funny because we were kind of joking in transition. We're like, well, should we give them the split off the lead male, or should we give them the split off of the lead female? Because that might just really break their heart. Because she started 5 minutes after you guys.
Wow.
Taylor Knibb.
That's a punch in the old gut right there. Way to go, Taylor. I mean, that is incredible.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Sam Long too. I remember seeing him.
Yeah.
I think he took a
win. He took the
tape.
win.
Yep.
Yeah.
So cool.
Anyway, so lots of history here, and one thing's for sure, it's not an easy race. So I think here we go.
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about in that regard. Our feature segment for our podcast today is Death to DNF, Why Boulder is a Thinking Athlete's Race. Rich, I just got to say that is such a brilliant title. And yes, absolutely agree. This is a thinking athlete's race. We can't just go in without a plan for this or just hope to get to the finish line, because there's a lot of strategery that needs to occur. And I'm going to break it down as to why, and then we're going to jump right in on how to avoid that DNF. So first off, there is no single discipline that dominates the difficulty. It's not like looking at other courses and saying, well, it's got a river-assisted swim, it's got a hilly bike, but a flat run. Each of these segments has its own levels of difficulty, to include the location itself. So we're going to cover again how we go through this. The course punishes aggressive decision-making more than technical errors. Altitude also magnifies pacing, fueling, and hydration mistakes, and I'll even say cooling. The race rewards restraint and patience across all three disciplines.
And this is why we are going to go through the top reasons athletes DNF Ironman 70.3 Boulder. And, DNFs at Boulder are rarely caused by a lack of training alone. Most DNFs trace back to execution errors. They just start to compound over time. Nutrition being one of the big ones, but there's also a lot related to heat and sun exposure. These are patterns seen consistently at altitude races for sure, but Boulder specifically.
So the first mistake is overbiking relative to altitude. So why it's important to know not to overbike is that there is a reduced oxygen availability, which increases physiological cost at the same power output. I remember you and Bill talking about this on a couple of podcasts ago about changing the relative power for the altitude because it demands a higher effort, and your heart rate obviously is going to be at a higher effort. Do you want to add to that, Rich?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this might be the race that, if you're not from around here, if you don't train here regularly, this might be the race that you race to heart rate as opposed to power, or at least know what the power conversion is. Now, of course, if you are a TriDot athlete, you are probably using RaceX, and RaceX has already figured that out for you. But if not, that's my best advice. Race to heart rate.
I think that's excellent advice, and I'll throw a little sidebar in here. I think that's what saved me for Xterra North American Championships, because I hadn't done any heat training. But man, that altitude training had such an amazing carryover to help with the lack of heat training, and it was awesome. It was epic. So I want to say that too. Like, altitude is such, if you get the opportunity to train with altitude, it's a huge, huge, huge advantage. Athletes often ride to sea level numbers that are unsustainable. Just reiterating that, that difference. And if you can find those numbers, absolutely employ them. But heart rate is a great metric to use for those who haven't been altitude trained. And the outcome of overbiking includes missing bike cutoffs and severe fatigue, leading to the inability to run. So it has compounding effects. If you're overbiking, you're not going to be able to show up on the run like you want because you're already behind the curve. So how do we prevent this? We can use altitude adjusted power or conservative heart rate caps. We can treat lap 1, I love this, as a setup and not a test. And remember that the bike will feel easier early than it actually is. It's a compounding effect. So if you're going out too hot, it's going to catch up to you.
For sure. All right. So this leads me to what I think is actually one of the biggest reasons that people make mistakes in Boulder, and it's inadequate heat management. And listen, high solar exposure and that dry air really can accelerate your dehydration, but it can also make you really uncomfortable. If you start to get sunburned out there, because that's going to also just heat up your skin and make you uncomfortable. We'll talk more about, sun exposure, a little later on, but that, you've got to stay on top of your hydration, and you have to know, it really does help. If there's any way for you to train out here or get a training block out here, prior to, or get out here a little bit early and go out for some test rides and really test your sweat rate at altitude. Learn what it's going to be at this altitude compared to, and you'll get an idea of how much you're losing. And, that's a whole nother topic, sweat testing, but really do understand that. Now, listen, you don't take care of this, you start to overheat, and, now you've got all sorts of other issues, right? You're going to start to have, you're going to start potentially vomiting, right? You're going to feel like you've bonked. Your body will shut down if it starts to overheat. So obviously your prevention is proactive cooling from the start. Make sure you stay on top of your hydration from the very first 10 miles on that bike, right? You should be, if you know your sweat rate, you should make sure you're starting out strong on the hydration, making sure your sodium concentration is understood. If you haven't tested what your sodium concentration is per liter, are you a 400 milligram per liter sweater, or are you a 24 milligram per liter sweater? That's an important thing to know, and a big difference, right? Makes a big difference in how much sodium you need to replace. And then ice and fluids. Man, if there is a course to have, use the ice, man, this is it. 2022, last time I did it, it was brilliant. They had these almost like a t-shirt cloth sort of towels and you could take them and you could dunk them in the ice in like an ice ice bin, and put it over your head. And it also helped protect you from the sun, because you could actually have it as sort of like protecting your shoulders from the sun. They really are great with the ice out there. Take advantage of it.
That sounds heavenly on a hot course. I think that is brilliant. Leading into our next tip here, or what can cause a DNF at Boulder, is insufficient altitude acclimation. Why this matters. There is acute exposure which impacts your breathing, your heart rate, and your ability to recover. And athletes arriving late are already physiologically disadvantaged. And how this can show up when we talk about a DNF outcome is, first off, swim panic. When it feels like you can't catch your breath, that is such a hard thing to recover from. If you're having an episode of hyperventilation and then that leads to a panic attack, that because you're not acclimated, that will result in a DNF, and it's a dangerous thing also. So that's why this altitude acclimation is so important. It also, over time, can cause early fatigue across all disciplines. You could show up to this race with the best fitness you've achieved over an incredibly strong training block, but you have this disadvantage, if you will, because there's a competing force that is holding you back from realizing those gains. And that's why altitude training is so important. So what can we do to prevent this insufficient acclimation? Arrive early enough to adapt or accept your pacing reduction. So if you don't have the opportunity to come early to get that adaptation, then wholeheartedly accept that you're probably going to be going at a reduced rate than you anticipated if you were at sea level, and be okay with that. Again, we want safety. We want you to have a good time as well. So take that into consideration. It is a big factor. And then prioritize your sleep and your hydration in the days leading up to the race. Understand that this is putting stress on you just being at higher elevation. So making that priority on your sleep, on your hydration, on your fueling, on getting your feet up, all of that is going to help you when it comes to offsetting that fatigue.
Yeah. Awesome. Well done, Coach April. I think it's an awesome tip. Now, underfueling on the bike. This is another big deal, right? This is, again, these are these little mistakes that you might be able to get away with some places, but man, carbohydrate utilization increases at altitude. You need to know kind of what your carbohydrate demand is going to be at altitude, and you might need to bump it up a little bit. Listen, athletes who delay fueling, just like hydration, really feel the effects, and it becomes unmanageable very, very fast. It's a very slippery slope. So, if having that schedule, eating on a schedule, drinking on a schedule, and if you start to feel the effects, pay attention to it. If you need to slow down to take on more aid, slow down and take on more carbohydrate. If you need to slow down to take on more hydration, slow down, bring down the effort level for a little bit. Boy, I tell you what, because if you ignore it, man, it's going to be a much bigger penalty later on.
I'll tell you this too. I remember last year, Rich, there were so many people I saw just hunched over throwing up. I was like, ooh, and I'm not trying to scare anyone with this race, but it's a real deal. Sun exposure. You have all these things that are working against you that just do not sit well, literally, in your stomach. So you want to take this very seriously, that and have tested and tried this and are monitoring it throughout the course.
Absolutely. And, you brought back in the sun exposure, and, we touched on it a little bit with the cooling and, managing your heat, but this on the bike, this could really save your race.
Mm-hmm.
You are at altitude. There is way less atmosphere for that sun to get through. You're going to feel the solar effect. Seriously, the UV factor here is off the chart. And there's obviously no shade. There's no shade on the bike course at all. And there's 3 trees total on the run course. So, good luck with shade, because you won't find any. So I always carried and trained my athletes that are doing this race, know how to put on sunscreen.
Yes.
Make sure you're putting on sunscreen in transition. Make sure your kit or your sunscreen is really covering your exposed spots, and have a plan for how to put it on in the race. This is one thing that we taught in our camp last year, how to put on sunscreen while you are riding. You have a tube of it in your bento box or in your pocket, and have it such that you can take it out and put it on while you're riding. Practice this. You want to be comfortable with it because you're going to really want to do that in the race. You ride for 3 hours in the sun without sunscreen or being exposed, you are going to be a lobster on the run.
And we saw it, Rich. We saw,
Oh,
I
yeah?
can't tell you how many people I saw just looked just burnt to a crisp and just miserable.
Yeah. It
And that
hurts.
could have been avoided.
Yeah.
So yes, please take these words to heart. This is not a joking matter, and we want you to have a good day. We don't want you to be carrying the scars outwardly of this race that you could have avoided with an application of sunscreen. So
Death to DNF.
death to DNF. We do not want you to DNF or to get seriously hurt. Seriously. All right. Our next here where we can avoid DNF is understanding swim anxiety and breathing disruption. So why does this matter? Cold water combined with altitude affects respiratory rate. So that's a really great point. If you are experiencing a rush of cold water and then your respiratory rate rhythm increases, it is a lot of stress. And again, can lead to that hyperventilation and can lead to that panic attack and it can stick with you. Even if you get it under control when you start, it can continue to happen throughout the swim. And that is just scary in and of itself. So knowing that cold water combined with altitude, it's really important to plan for that. Rich, I know you have a really great technique. Do you want to talk about it with the mammalian?
Well, yeah, it really is. Before you're getting in the water, you want to, as you're getting in the water, you want to be able to get that water on your face and around your neck and around that carotid artery. There's a, vagus nerve that is part of the sensory organs that tell a mammal that, hey, you're in the wrong environment here and it's cold. And you need to now take all of the blood that is out there in those nice working muscles, and you need to start redirecting it to the vital organs to keep and protect the body and keep it alive. Well, when that happens, it's a little bit of a process the body has to go through. Chris, we were just talking about Chris and his repeated exposure and what he's learning about how his body reacts. He sees his heart rate go up by quite a few beats as soon as he goes into the cold water. And then he watches it and he can see it drop back down. And when it drops back down, he knows he's pretty much good to go. And so he goes out and then he starts doing his swimming. And he keeps an eye on it, but.
Oh, that's so smart. And I think that awareness around it and how to work with it, that is such a great way to prevent it from taking you out essentially later on in the swim when you don't have someone next to you that you can hold on to a paddleboard. You're kind of out there and your heart rate goes. And knowing how to manage that before a race is such an important skill. There's also the fact that this is a rolling start, which anticipation to start can also increase stress and breathing, right? So making sure that you're checking in with yourself, trying to keep that heart rate down, breathing mindfully, slowing that breath rate. Those are going to be some things that are going to help you with not going out too hard and not getting essentially punched in the face with cold water or an elbow from someone next to you,
right.
And throwing you off.
Yeah.
And why this can lead to a DNF, like we said, panic is energy depleting. It takes away, it doesn't add to. And an elevated heart rate before the bike begins is just, again, adding to that compounding fatigue that is a ticking time bomb. So to prevent this, conservative swim pacing, focused on that controlled breathing before entering and increasing your effort, and then prioritizing your calm swim exit over a fast exit. I think that's also a really good point. You're going from horizontal to vertical. Be mindful of that as well. You don't need to sprint like a racehorse out of the water. Give yourself the ability to readjust.
Yeah. You're not going to win it on the swim exit. Right. And I'll just add to this a couple other like little sidebar tips here, for prevention. This time of year, middle of June, you might not need a long sleeve wetsuit. Having a sleeveless wetsuit can free up your arms a little bit. Sometimes that lack of constriction also helps, right? You feel a little more comfortable in the water. Find some techniques that help you be ready to get into that water. So, if you can, before the race, splash cold water on your face. If you can't, hey, have a bottle of really cold water. And just before you get in, as you're walking down the ramp, pour that cold water down into your wetsuit. That will actually start that process for you. Pour it over your neck, over the back of your neck, down your back. Have that process start to happen while you're still standing on dry land instead of when you're trying to swim. All right. Tip number 6, but we're being pretty thorough here. We should probably speed it up, huh?
Okay, sounds good. We need to speed up out of transition. T1 here.
I'm being very verbose. I know.
I love it.
All right. I'll be brief on this one. Gastrointestinal distress. This can show up for a number of reasons. This is one reason you may not want to eat a massive carb loading meal the day before your race, but maybe 2 days before your race. Also, it could be too much fiber, or it could be dehydration. If you are vomiting and you cannot take in nutrition, there's a pretty good chance that you are dehydrated. And when you are dehydrated, the blood flow does not get to the gut the way it's supposed to, puts the gut under stress, and nothing gets in. Everything gets sent back out through the front door. The bouncer bounces everything back out, and it's just not fun. I have been there so many freaking times in Colorado. I don't have this in a lot of other places, but I sure do here. Anyway, make sure that you know your sweat rate. Make sure you're hydrating to your sweat rate. Make sure you know your sodium concentration. If you don't, go to Precision Hydration, find a testing center near you. They're all over the country. Find one. There's 2 or 3 right here in Colorado near us in the Front Range. Figure it out before the race. Also, avoid over-concentrating your nutrition solutions. Know what you can, and practice it. Practice. Practice at intensity, practice at temperature. Really can change, 10 degrees difference, 10% of your power difference could make a big difference.
Oh, wow. Yes. And you don't want to go into a race with these unknowns. This is not the time for Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Machine. This should be riddled out before you get to the race. So great tip. Next up is missing intermediate cutoffs. Why this matters. Boulder includes a critical bike lap cutoff, and athletes misjudge pacing relative to cutoff times. What this can do is cause a removal from the course despite having the fitness to finish. So how do we prevent this? We want you to know the cutoff times before race day. Where you can find that is the athlete guide. Make sure you read that thing front to back. Also, build a pacing plan that accounts for the altitude and wind, and use that lap 1 metric to validate your pacing.
Awesome. Yeah, this is that course, right? You can make a mistake with hydration, you can make a mistake with nutrition, and you can definitely make a mistake with your pacing. So, speaking of pacing mistakes, pacing too slow, right, which can miss a cutoff, or to the other side of the equation, aggressive pacing. We talked about overbiking, right? And why you want to be really conservative on your biking. This is a good place. Hopefully you've got, the powder's still here, a little dry here on the run, but you do not want to go out hard on this run. Build into this sucker. I'm telling you, start getting in nutrition on the run right away, which means you got to keep your pace and your heart rate down a little bit. It's flat terrain for the most part, but there are a couple of hills here, and the oxygen debt is going to mount up pretty fast. So, intentionally slow down those first few miles, get in the nutrition, walk the aid stations. I did kind of, exaggerate. There's probably like 4 trees, not 3. But and there might be like half of the road might have some shade. So you might find a couple. And there's also shade in the porta potties. I get that. But that's gross. So walk the aid stations, focus on perceived exertion and heart rate more than pace.
That is so true with the shade. I mean, when Rich and I were out there last year, volunteering and then also being support for our athletes, it was hard enough for us to find shade, and we weren't racing. So you can only imagine, and again, this is why we're hitting this so hard, because this is what commonly takes people out, and we don't want that for you. So number 9, mechanical failures, why it matters. Y'all, heat affects tire pressure and equipment reliability. Ooh. Long, straight sections also magnify small mechanical issues. So just like you would have in any other triathlon race, this is, again, why this is different for boulders, because of the long access to heat and then the straight sections magnifying. So make sure that you have a tune-up before this race. Even a simple look over would be better than nothing, and then having the right equipment. So the outcome here can be irreparable bike issues, and then again, missed cutoffs because of those delays. So how to prevent this? Conservative tire pressure, thorough pre-race bike inspection, and carrying that basic repair kit and having the capability to actually fix your bike.
Practice it, people. Yeah, for sure. Practice it. Awesome. All right. So we said at the start, this is the thinking athlete's race. This is why. Listen, we know that you know how to train and practice how to swim. You've probably been training and practicing your swim exits. We know that you've been training your bike mounts and your power and hopefully your nutrition. And we know that you have been doing all your drills, right? You've been doing all your run drills, you're doing all your run workouts. And you've probably put together this bulletproof plan for this race. You've got, your power numbers and all of that. Great. Go back. This is why you got to think. Go back and do the math again. Make sure you're doing the math for here, for this altitude, for the temperatures we're going to have, for the sun we're going to have. Think through the preparation that you're going to need for this. What are you going to have? What do you have to change? How? Then this is best laid plans. That just gets you to the start line. You need to be able to, be constantly observing yourself, monitoring the systems at the first sign of weakness, at the first sign of fatigue, of any kind of small issues. Don't ignore it. Right. What is it? And when in doubt, slow down. Slow down for yellow lights is my rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Don't speed through it. Yellow light. Oh, I got to gun it because I want to get through the intersection. No. This is not that. This is slow down for yellow lights and take care of it. We don't want to see you in the medical tent. We definitely want you to finish and get that finisher's medal. Boom.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. We also want you to have an excellent race. So if you employ these tips, you're more than halfway there. Show up trained, show up rested, show up ready. You're going to be just fine. And that brings us to our fun segment. I like that, dab. All right, Rich, I prepared this beauty for you. Yes. Based on this topic of death or DNF, I think that's how we put it. We're putting this fun segment as death, taxes, or DNF. So it's time for a brand new segment inspired by Boulder 70.3 called Death, Taxes, or DNF, because there are a few things in endurance sports that feel absolutely inevitable. And today, we're deciding which category these race day moments belong in. So you're going to tell me, Rich, as we're walking through this, is it death? Is this person paying the triathlon tax? Or is this a DNF?
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. So we're starting hot here. This athlete flew in from sea level 18 hours before the race and says, I'm not worried about the altitude.
I'm going to just go with this is going to be a potential DNF right out of the gate. I've seen this a lot, and it usually is. They don't understand the oxygen depth that they're going to be in at racing. You get excited anyway, right?
Yeah.
And you start off, and then you're probably swimming faster than you might normally. You get a little bit adrenaline going, and then the reality sets in about a minute or two. Hey, wait a minute. Where's the air? Why am I breathing so hard? I talked to a pro one year who DNF'd on the swim, and she goes, I have no idea what happened out there. I've never felt like that. And it must be the altitude. I'm like, probably is the altitude.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going. That one.
I'm right there with you, DNF. This is what we've been talking about. All right, number 2, the athlete who skips aid stations because I don't really sweat that much.
Well, again, I'm just going to go with the DNF here thing again, right? This could be the thing that gets you. I don't know. Once you start vomit, it's not fun to race.
I'm going with the Grim Reaper on this one, Rich. I think this one can lead to hyponatremia.
Yeah, I guess if you don't handle your sodium right, you overhydrate. Hyponatremia. So skipping the aid station because you don't really sweat much. Okay, just
you're asking for it. All right, the guy absolutely hammering those first 15 miles on the bike like he's trying to win the Tour de France. Then he's jogging sideways by mile 4 of the run. Death, taxes, or DNF?
Definitely a DNF. This guy is or I guess you could say dead man walking, but this is going to be definitely a DNF.
Have you seen that when someone's like,
oh yeah, come in, blue leader. Where are you going?
Oh, blue leader. All right. The athlete who has a $9,000 bike but packed exactly 1 CO2 cartridge and 0 backup plan.
Ooh, I'm going to go with taxes. This person probably pays a lot in taxes.
Yep. This is a high tax situation. You owe the government. All right, good. The athlete who starts the run at sea level half marathon pace because it feels easy.
Dead man running.
This is on the line.
DNF for sure.
All right. The athlete who ignored every warning about Boulder and is now bargaining with strangers for pickle juice at mile 10.
Ooh, I like this one. Huh. I immediately went to, you're bargaining, huh? So I just went to, there's got to be a tax on that.
Yes.
So I say taxes.
We call it the pickle tax.
Pickle tax. I like that. Very salty.
Yeah, very, very. And finally, we have the Boulder athlete who walks every aid station, manages their effort all day, stays patient, finishes strong, and passes 200 people in the final 10K.
Death to DNF.
Yes! That is the smartest person.
Way to set the ball.
Yes. Smartest person on the course, for sure. And that is the whole lesson of Boulder 70.3 right there. This race doesn't reward ego, it rewards restraint. It's not usually one giant mistake that causes the DNF. It's 100 tiny cuts stacking up under altitude, heat, and fatigue until the wheels come off. And the athletes who respect the course, those are usually the athletes smiling at the finish line. So if you're racing Boulder this year, be patient. Fuel early, hydrate before you think you need to, and remember, surviving lap 1 is not the same thing as racing well.
Awesome. That was such a fun podcast. I mean, golly, the time has just flown, and I cannot wait to be out there in just a couple of weeks with you, April.
Oh, I know. It's going to be a blast. Well, you are the PB to my J.
Oh,
Rich, so we always have a good time.
Awesome. Well, folks, we'll see you out there. Also, listen, speaking of your nutrition, you want to make sure that you want to have a little bit of help here with managing your carbohydrate demand. Use Vespa Power Endurance. It really helps you tap into steady, clean energy so that you can stay focused and in the zone longer. It is not a fuel. Vespa is a metabolic catalyst. It's a, watch this, April. Watch this. We got a little, couple of.
You all need to be watching this on YouTube. Rich is leaning over out of his chair.
I got my refrigerator over here. And oh, by the way, yeah, this stuff is fantastic. This is Vespa. It's a pouch. It's a very liquidy pouch. It's got a little, you know what I'm going to do? I've never done this on the air.
Oh my gosh. You are.
Why not?
You are having a good time. It's a shot. Oh.
It's like a shot. It's like, this is orange flavored. It's like,
I love that.
It's great. I should have done this on you know what we're going to do next pod? I'm going to take out my Lumen device that measures my metabolic rate. We'll do this on the air.
Yes.
Oh, all right. So anyway, there's your ad read for Vespa. Listen, there's a discount code here in the show notes. There's a link here in the show notes with the code already baked into it. So just hit that sucker. You'll save 15% off of everything in your cart. And hey, thanks for spending some time with us today on the Grit2Greatness Endurance Podcast, talking about Boulder 70.3 and, the sun and the altitude and all that fun. And if you enjoyed the episode, please follow us and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. It helps us reach other athletes just like you. Okay, stay gritty, train smart, and keep chasing greatness. We will see you next week.